Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Combat, Season 1, Episode 13. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So picking up where the last episode left off, everyone's doing their training, and it's time for like the weigh-ins and the fitness tests and stuff like that. And lo and behold, who comes out on top? It's Tien, which Yi-Chin's kind of thinking like, what? How is that possible? But Queen has to remind him, like, right, while you're sitting here making all your snide remarks, Tien is getting trained by, like, the top 3 athletes at this school. So keep underestimating him is going to be your problem. And that's even something Guan Yan is trying to get across to him, too. Like, right, like, you're underestimating how much he's been training and stuff. Even now, goes and shows him, it's like, because you need to see this first and foremost. So look at this. Because it's a little different here. You just see him training by himself. But in the webtoon, it's him against Moon Young. And, like, seeing, I believe, like, he's training with Moon Young, I believe. And seeing him really fighting someone is what made that character see, like, oh, crap. Because Guan Yan, in this particular case, is like, yo, look. He just after the fitness test, he's already back at it, like, training. So, you know, you're sitting here so confident, but can you say for certain that you can beat him when the time comes? And it does motivate him that he's back in the gym. Even like Zhao Feng, it's like, what's up with him? But Guan Yan's like, don't worry about it. You know, just don't focus on him and kind of helping her with her training. Which, let's pivot over to them really quickly. That's kind of, I love the Yanan and Guan Yan of it all because he's there at her gym and everything. And she finally found out, like, what he had to deal with a couple episodes ago because of them showing up at their school. And it's like, right, you spending time at my dad's gym, and then also like the ramifications you're suffering from like your squad because of that. She's like, I didn't know that was going to happen, so I'm sorry. Like, maybe you shouldn't be here so much because it's also going to be a conflict of interest. Like, if we train enough together, we're going to know each other's weaknesses, and that's going to make it a little unfair. So it's like Guan Yan agrees, like, fine. Because once again, he says he doesn't feel guilty about it because he's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I have a clear conscience about, you know, being from the school I am, but also training at your dad's gym and wanting to be around you, you know. But it's like, right, she's like, at least until, like, you know, he's like, fine, like, once the tournament's over, I'll come back here and train. But I forgot how the conversation led there, but basically he wants to ask her out, and she's almost like, wait, what? And it's just like she's getting nervous because he's very upfront about how he feels about her, and it's like, yeah, I want to ask you out and stuff. And she's like, well, you just want to ask, he's like, what, you don't believe me? She's like, I believe you, but you're just asking me out because you want to, like, learn my weaknesses and take advantage of all of that stuff. It's just like you want to, like, see all my moves, and that's what she's looking at it from a competitor mindset. Because I think there is a part of her that kind of finds it hard to believe that, like, wait, you want to, like, go out with me? Like this, I don't think she's had much dating experience, and so it's like someone wholeheartedly liking, accepting her for who she is. It's still kind of like she's so confident in who she is, but it's still a little bit of an insecurity, and to have someone kind of like you for that, it's just kind of like, wait, what? And then on top of that, like, I think it's easier just to kind of push him away to some extent. And he's just like, wow, you're kind of a little crazy. The fact is that you're, like, doing all these gymnastics, like making all these assumptions in your head when it's just straightforward. I just want to go out on a date with you. I just want to, you know. So I thought that was nice. And so later on, when her dad comes back and he's like, yo, where's Guan Yan? And it's like, oh, he left. And it's like, you forced him to leave. And very much like the relationship they have in the webtoon, they kind of beat each other up. They have that, like, father-daughter relationship. And they show love in the ring. And so they're boxing, and he's just kind of pissed at her for doing what she's doing. And she's like, I'm pissed at you for, like, training him in the first place. And then, like, he lands a blow on her, and she's later on telling Queen, it's like, it's okay. That's how my dad shows love. But it's just like, I mean, I think it's so interesting because Queen comes to her for, like, her complicated feelings about Tian, but I find it funny that Yanan hasn't, like, done the reciprocal. Like, she hasn't I mean, who knows? Because, like, her and Queen, at least on screen, didn't talk about the Guan Yan of it all, so it makes me feel like she's probably keeping that very close to the vest. Because once again, it's a lot of times it's easier to deal with other people's stuff than it is your own stuff. So I think that's interesting. But I even love Yanan being like, don't worry, I got your back, Queen. I'll make sure that Yanan stays as far away from Not that Yanan was like, I'll make sure that Xiaomi stays as far away as possible from Tian, and she's like, I didn't ask you to do that. It's just like, because obviously she's annoyed at like how much time they're spending together and stuff, and it's just, don't worry, I got your back. I'm your best friend. It's like, I guess I've got nothing better else to do with my free time, which I do appreciate that. Like when Tian was trying to like leave, and Xiaomi's like, hey, I'll come over, cook. I mean, I won't cook for you. I made a promise to the kids, so I have to like cook for them, right? And he's like, you really don't have to do that. But then like, because I love like he's like being stalked by Xiaomi's being stalked by Yanan, because Yanan invites herself over and being like, Tian, it's fine if I come over, right? And he's like, yeah, sure. See, the host gets to decide, the cook has no say in it. And it's like, all right, let's go over to his place, and then he runs away. That's what I think is so amazing. Kind of a difference between Tian and Jaegu. Jaegu would have never like actually ran away from Moon Young and Dao Dao, never. He just would have been like, okay, sure, and accepted it, which Tian did, but he actually literally tried to run away from it, but they chased him down, and lo and behold, they end up at home. So really quickly, I got to circle back, because when it comes to the Guanyan situation, after he left the gym, I forgot he has a run-in with Zhao Feng, who kind of makes it clear how she feels, which for him it's like, we've always been good friends and I appreciate all that you've done, but for her it's like, I've gone above and beyond. I've never really challenged you for the position of captain of the club, and just for her it's like, I can't wrap my head around, like, once again, like your loyalty torn between Yanan and our school. And he's like, I have a clear conscience. I don't have to choose. I can have both. Like, there's no conflict of interest there. But it's only a conflict of interest for Zhao Feng, because, I mean, the others make a conflict out of it too, because Zhao Feng made such an issue out of it. Well, her and Yi Chen, but still her. But it's also, the fact is that she likes him, so like that's where the conflict of interest really arrives, and that's why she's also can't comprehend. It's like, okay, if it was like a girl who was pretty, like cuter or more gentler or whatever, sure, but like what am I lacking that she has? Like she looks at herself as like, I'm so much better than Yanan in every capacity, so why? And for him it's like, the comparisons to other people like isn't something that can really be determinable. Like, oh, this person is more like this, so that means I'm more likely to like them. It's like, I like her and I like, that's all there is to it, But for her it's like, oh, you want to have a Romeo and Juliet romance with Yana? Well, you can try, but I'm not gonna let that happen. I haven't given up. I'm like, wow, her sticking her ground. Like, nah, I'm going to like not give up in this fight for love. So love triangles galore. Once again, like, there's only one in the entire series that I'm really, really aware of. Well, I guess, like, arguably it, like, multiplies out as the series progresses, but it's, like, really, it's just, like, that core love triangle, so, like, there being multiple ones is kind of interesting, and once again, especially this early on in the story, so. But other than that, we have the Queen situation, which her grandfather found out, like, oh, here you are, you went to a dance, which it was mandatory, but also like, oh, teaching Taekwondo class for kids. It's like, well, that's because I made a promise. And for him, it's like, since you have so much time, you can take that extra time you apparently have and work in the office. And it's like, I think it comes from the place of, it does, I believe, come from a place of love. Even I don't think he's very good at showing it. I mean, he's from an older generation. I think that also massively plays a role in it. But it's like, yeah, he just doesn't. He wants his grandchildren to be prepared for the world, like when he leaves, especially because it's like, I won't be around forever, and I want to make sure you're okay. I think it legitimately does stem from that. He does love his grandchildren, especially because, like, once again, it's like, I think the trauma of also losing, like, their parents also makes it so, like, he puts so much on them. Even that look when he tells her, like, right, go to the office, and she can't really, like, go against his wishes and just says, okay. You see that look on his face, like, he's like, he recognizes he's being tough on her, but it's kind of a tough love thing, and he's just kind of like he's, I think, a little frustrated with himself and her a little bit, like, just do what I say, like, I wish you would be more focused, but at the same time it's like, man, he had made that deal with her, with Zhao, like, right, I'll handle all the business stuff, just let my sister do whatever she wants to, and in her free time, once again, that's why he's squeezing out, like, oh, you have free time to do all this stuff, then you can work in the office. It's like, come on, man, just let her live her life. She wants to have, like, some form of normal life, and once again, that's something her and Tian connect over. Once again, different worlds, but in a lot of capacities from the same world. Then we move over to the Zhao Mi with Tian and Yanan at Tian's place and her cooking, and we finally get the whole bit about Yanan being so massively in love with Zhao Mi's cooking, and it's just kind of like wow, like she was trying to pretend like no, I'm not hungry. Once again, because I was associating that with a later bit about her losing weight, and that's what I thought the reason why she wasn't going to eat. But it's like, no, she didn't want to give Xiaomi the satisfaction. I'm not going to eat your food, but she didn't realize how good it was. So now we have the bit. This is going to be a continuous bit, like I'm sure, like it was in the webtoon, of just her being so obsessed with Xiaomi's food, and that just being a recurring thing. So kind of ended up winning her over. And I even love Xiaomi's perspective when I'm being like, now I've not only won like Tien's stomach, but also his siblings too. Like this is kind of a surefire thing. It's all working out. Everything's firing on all cylinders. So just to like poke the bear more, she takes a photo of all of them eating and texts it to Xiaomi, even leaving a message of like, oh, like look at us eating together, almost like a family or something like that. I forgot what her exact words were. And Queen's approach was, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to block your number. That way I don't have to hear or get any messages from you. But then gets a message from Yanan, and then it turns out Yanan's left a message being like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, you're my best friend, bro. I've always got your back. I'm siding with you, but I've been bribed by Xiaomi's cooking. And it's like, right, it can't be that good. So Queen decides she's going to cook for herself. I wonder if the person she was watching, the video she was watching, I'm wondering, is that just any regular like cooking video she was watching, or is that specifically Xiaomi's mom? It feels like it has to be Xiaomi's mom, just because this is the episode after they already introduced that whole element of, oh yeah, my mom has like a cooking program and stuff, you know. So it feels like it has to be her mom, but we'll see later on whether that ends up being the case or not. But like I said, it could have just been some random person, but it feels very poetic that if that is in fact her mom, it adds layers to, oh, you trying to outshine Xiaomi, you end up using her mom's cooking to try and outshine her, considering Xiaomi learned everything she knows from her mom. But obviously Queen doesn't know all that, but still, it's just that extra added context, once again, in fact that is supposed to be Xiaomi's mom. But Queen did everything, and she used her brother as a guinea pig. I love that. I mean, from what we've seen, she didn't eat a lick of the food, but I guess it's the whole thing of, right, you need a controlled, like, subject, so you need an outside perspective on the whole thing, because she's like, oh, taste it out, it's going to be good. He's like, her brother's like, you've never heated up milk for me, and you go, why are you suddenly cooking? Like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, come on, sit down and eat. And he's almost like, do I have to? She's like, hurry up and come back and eat. And so he comes over, and she's like dumping all this stuff inside on his bowl. And then later on, it's like, oh, it's good, isn't it? And then later on, apparently some of that got sent to the people at the office, which we see everyone's in pain eating her food. You even see someone getting carried out. It's like, wow, that went super, super bad. And just like, I was just like, why is she cooking all of a sudden? Where's this coming from? It's like, that's sad. I don't know if that quite came across to her, because he was like, yeah, I can't really ask them about how they felt about the food. All he can do is see how they felt about the food and how the food did not cooperate with their stomachs. But I don't know if he was able to really get that point across to Queens. I don't know if she knows how bad that went. So, because she thought like, oh man, like Xiaomi makes it seem like it's such a, like, she's so cocky. I don't know why she's so cocky, but this isn't that hard. And it's like, yeah, it kind of blew up in her face. But once again, I don't think she's fully aware how much it blew up in her face. Either way, with the continuous training, obviously, Xiaomi is handling, like, obviously the Taekwondo angle, trying to get Tian, like, used to, like, taking blows and him being able to kind of keep his steady footing. And she has to go a little harder after Yanan, like, after, like, obviously Tian's kind of, like, suffering from the blows, and she's like, I'm sorry, I'll lessen up. But it's like, no, it's a good thing, you have to keep going. And it's like, well, if you're not going to do it, Xiaomi, and me, who doesn't know how to control my own strength, I'll be the one to kick him. And Xiaomi's like, no, I'll do it, fine, I'll do it. Her reluctance to go hard against Tian, and she's like, okay, I'm just keep up with it a little bit. She felt so bad about it. And because of that, because he was sore from the training, she decided, like, hey, I'm going to force your hand. I'm going to take over for your job today. So once I do that, like, you need to rest up, because if you don't take the proper rest, you're just going to hurt yourself in the long run when it comes to the actual preliminaries and the competition and stuff. But either way, when it's all said and done, he accepts. He once again, he's trying to be more accepting of help, even though that's not like his like default, he's not very good at asking for help. So he's like, you know, trying to be better about that, especially after the Queen conversation, which comes all full circle, even more so because Queen stopped by the coffee shop to, you know, get some advice from the rabbit, and not knowing that it's Zhao Mi in it this time. And I love that she's talking to me like, oh, like, is cooking so important? And it's like, Xiaomi's nodding her head. It's like, you know, like, what about a girl who's like, you know, not cute and doesn't know how to flirt, like, who's already tall and not good at all that stuff? Like, is that important too? You know, and then Xiaomi took off the that bunny rabbit head. I was like, oh my God, I was thinking you were never going to find out. I love that they included. I was thinking like you would go the entire time thinking you're talking to the rabbit and Xiaomi was going to give you terrible advice, just kind of nod along and say this and that, just to do everything to pull you further and further away from Tien. But I didn't know she was actually going to take it off. And it's like, wait, that's you under there? It's like, what were you expecting, Tian? It's like, oh, it's a good thing I decided to take over for him when it comes to work, because if I didn't, he would have fallen for your trap. And she said, whoa, wait a minute, Tian, like, he would, you're saying it was him under the suit? And she's like, yeah, you're telling me you didn't know he worked here? And now she's feeling so embarrassed because she's grabbing her head. She's like, wait, what? Because she opened up to him so much, and now she's thinking back to everything like, oh my God, he's the one that gave me the strawberry ice cream. Oh my God, he's the one. And she thinks back to the car wash thing. She's like, I thought it was just a coincidence, him saying all that stuff, but he did it for me because I told him, I confessed all that stuff. It's like, it's so beautiful how she's like panicking about it, which I love so much. And even Xiaomi is talking about it with Hao, and she's like, oh, like, she didn't know he was working here. And it's like, actually, Hao gave her the benefit of the doubt. It's like, there's actually a possibility Queen didn't know. I mean, think about it. I mean, he goes to school, he works at the car wash, and like he has these multiple like jobs, and on top of that, like, none of us knew he worked at an ice cream shop until now. So it's like, there's a strong possibility, which Xiaomi's like, well, actually, that actually does make a lot of sense, that she probably wouldn't know, because none of us would have known until like he brought it up, but that's where he worked. So, but it's like, right, we can never let Tian know that Queen found out that it was him under the suit, because that could be something that can end up bringing them together, and both of them are kind of excited about it. They're like, we can both use this. We need to strike while the iron's hot. We can use this to our advantage. Once again, it's obvious that he likes Queen a lot. Like I said, there is a direct parallel though, but I still feel like Xiaomi's way more into Tien than like Hao is into Queen. Once again, they're like buddies and like trying to make sure those two don't get closer together, but still, it's just, yeah, it's interesting. And I love that Queen shows up at Yanan's place like 1 o'clock in the morning, but apparently they were already, the conversation says that they were already on the phone before midnight talking about it. So like, Queen went to her to talk to her about everything, but still showed up at her place in the middle. And Yanan's like, let me go to sleep. First and foremost, you're the idiot that went blabbing all your personal feelings to some stranger in a rabbit suit. Who does that? You know? It's like, yeah, that is kind of on her, but she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I love that it's like, Yanan's advice was, pretend you don't know. She went about it the most like confusing way. She was like, basically like, okay, so the only difference is you now know, because Tien always knew, and now you know that he knows, but he doesn't know that you know that he knew. And it's like, wait, what? I'm confused. Which Yanan is like, yeah, it's confusing. I'm confused too. It's just like, I don't know. She's like, just pretend, like, what if you want to like kind of keep your head on, you know, correctly, what you need to do is, you know, pretend you don't know, but also when it comes to training, be merciless and push harsher when it comes to Tien. That way you feel like there's some kind of equilibrium here. That way you're not so confused. It's like, as long as you pretend you don't know, and as long as you kind of treat him the same way you've always treated him, by like actually to compensate for not being able to fully do that, go even harder against him in training. You know, so that's kind of Yanan's thing. To be fair, she was extremely tired and she just wants to go to bed. Plus, she doesn't really know what proper advice to give her on this situation. It's a very unique situation, but he's like, yeah, as long as you're going hard against Tien in training, neither one of you have any time for all this awkwardness between you. So, but the next day, it's like, Yana also finds out about Queen's injury on her hand. It's like, wait, what happened there? It's like, well, I cut myself. I was trying to cut remove like a string from like my like knitted sweater or something. It's like, it's hot outside. Why would you be wearing something like that? So just admit the truth. It's like, all right, I was going for a snack. It's like, nope, you're still a liar. It's like, fine. I just wanted to cook. It's like, well, what, really? And it's like, yes, like Zhao Mi. I just wanted to like show her up. It's like, well, why do you care so much about Zhao Mi? It's like, she's like, let me make it clear. Yanan's like, if Zhao Mi had cooked for like the president, director, or even How, you wouldn't care so much. It's not about Zhao Mi, it's specifically Tien that you care about. And she's like, no. It's like, all right, distance is the only solution for this. We can talk about this once you kind of figured everything out and you're willing to admit what this is really, really all about. You know, that how you feel about him. Which, speaking on that front, once again, I need to just shut my mouth because, once again, this show's such a faithful adaptation of, like, they keep little bits still straight from the webtoon. Because I'd mentioned this a couple episodes back of, like, oh, I think it's still interesting making it so that the little brother likes Queen. It's kind of a little bit of a crush. It's like, no, you're going to be with me and not my brother. I was like, oh, it's funny because I was like, yeah, like, his brother's his biggest cheerleader when it comes to his love life. They did the thing because they pull out the little chart and it's like, right, who's got the most points? You know, Zhao Mi or Queen on, like, who should be their brother's girlfriend. And it's like they're keeping it a major secret, which I'm curious to see how they handle that live action, whether Tien or any of the girls will ever find out, because in the webtoon none of them ever found out. That was just kind of like a bit that only the reader got to experience. That was kind of because I said like the brother is the more bigger cheerleader, but it's like in retrospect now that I'm thinking about it, I think the sister was just as much of a cheerleader too, but the brother would kind of go even a little further, which is interesting to kind of bring up that Tien's brother would go a little further. We'll talk about that later when it comes up, but they're both about it. And I guess in my head, I always associated the like point system as something that only the brother did. I didn't know the sister was a part of it. Like they're both involved with the point system in this. I don't think they both were, but you know, I don't remember the sister interacting with it. I remember the brother interacting with and adjusting the points on the fly, but I don't remember the sister ever being directly involved. But it's like, yeah, they both contribute to like, wait, why does Zhao Mi have an extra point? It's like, well, because we both like agreed that because she made us food yesterday. And it's like, oh yeah, we did think about that too. But it's like, yeah, but we also have to side with Queen because she's teaching us Taekwondo. It's like, we can't like completely discount her either. So they gave her an extra point and now it's balanced. So they're dead even again. So I love that bit because it's such an adorable bit, you know? So, like I said, like, there's just so much in this where I'm like, oh, they're not going to do that thing. And then, like I said, I keep saying it over and over again. A couple episodes later, I'm like, oh, they did the thing. So I have to be more careful about that. Like, no assumptions about what because like certain things will come up sooner, and in like the webtoon equivalency, they'll do it, but they'll just do it later on. So that's where I'm like, oh, I got to keep that in mind. So I'm probably going to dance around like not. Until something comes up, I'll probably talk about it more. But that's also the thing where I feel like sometimes stuff I'll be like, oh, that goes against what happened in the webtoon, so I can talk about what happened in the webtoon in comparison. But then it's like, no, the thing that happened in the webtoon also ends up happening. It's just going to happen later on. So that's something I still got to adjust myself, prepare for. Don't underestimate the show. Like I said, it's a very, very faithful adaptation and in so many ways. You know, there's actually something... I won't even go into spoilers about it. I'm so curious about something that happened in the webtoon that I'm curious to see if they'd adapt it to. Is there's a thing that happens pretty late in the series, a decent chunk way into the series, that it's like this series being set in China. I'm so curious how they're going to handle that, like in another, because there's a situation later on that involves characters that speak Chinese. So I'm curious. Are they going to have the inverse of that and make it so that these characters speak Korean? I'd love that. Once again, no spoilers on the thing until like we potentially get there. It'll be a while before we even get to that story point. But I'm curious, like, would they do the inverse of that and make it so these characters speak Korean? I think that'd be really, really interesting. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, if they do. I mean, that whole thing will probably be adapted, but that particular bit, I'm curious to see whether they do it or not. Oh, but I also love the ending of the episode too, where it's basically like Zhao Mi is like getting ready, and she's like, "Oh, I hope you're ready." And then Tian wakes up. He's like, "Why did I suddenly get a chill?" And he's just like, "Ugh," like the hair standing up on him. He's like, "Well, why did I get that feeling all of a sudden?" He's kind of shaking himself like, "Ugh," and he kind of lays back down. I was like, I love that, because obviously that's like a very, I don't know if that's, it feels like that's across all Asian like things where it's like, once again, it's like you sneeze, meaning someone's thinking or someone's talking about you, or you get a chill, like that's supposed to be the universal sign of like, oh, someone's talking about you. Wasn't there something I maybe I misremember? I could have sworn I read something recently that was kind of like a, oh my god, like, oh, I'm like something with your ears kind of indicate like someone's talking about you too. I don't remember. I know the sneezing one and the chill bit is like, oh, those are examples of like somebody's like, there's something nefarious. Well, at least the chill bit is like something like nefarious is in here because of Xiaomi. But yeah, like I said, I associate with like, oh, if you're sneezing, that means someone's talking about you thing. But either way, I'm excited to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with everything. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.